When my daughter-in-law Jessica told me, "You're not family anymore on Father's Day," I quietly walked to my study and called my lawyer. By the next morning, I had started the process to remove her children from my $1.8 million trust fund. And that was just the beginning. Justice had to happen. You won't believe what I did next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening in the comments. My name is William Chen, and I'm 74 years old. I've been a successful real estate developer for over 50 years now. Started with one small apartment building back in 1972 and built Chen Properties into one of the largest residential development companies in our state. Today, my business is worth about $12 million, and I own 47 rental properties across 3 cities. My wife Helen died from cancer 3 years ago after 46 years of marriage. She was the love of my life and my partner in everything we built together. We had 2 children. Our daughter Amy lives in California with her husband and visits twice a year. Our son Marcus is 38 years old and lives here in town with his wife Jessica and their 3 kids. Marcus married Jessica 8 years ago, and I welcomed her into our family with open arms. Jessica doesn't work outside the home and focuses on raising their 3 children, ages 6, 8, and 10. Marcus works as an accountant at a mid-size firm making about $90,000 per year. Together they have a decent upper-middle-class income, but nothing close to what Helen and I built over 5 decades of hard work. After Helen died, I set up trust funds for all my grandchildren to ensure their financial security. $1.8 million divided equally among the 5 grandkids from Marcus and Amy. Each child would receive $360,000 when they turned 25. The trust was my way of making sure Helen's legacy would help the next generation get good educations and start their adult lives without financial stress. Jessica seemed grateful when I first explained the trust fund arrangements to the family. "William, thank you so much for thinking about the children's futures," she had said sincerely during a family dinner 2 years ago. "This means they'll be able to go to college without student loans and maybe buy their first homes without struggling like we did." I thought Jessica understood that my generosity came from love and wanting to help family. But something started changing in Jessica's attitude about 6 months ago, when she began making more demands about how I should spend my money on her family. "William, the kids need a bigger house with a better school district," she would tell me. "You should help Marcus with a down payment so we can move somewhere more appropriate for children with trust funds." Her suggestions felt more like orders than requests. Jessica also started making comments about my lifestyle that bothered me during family visits. "William, this big house is too much for one person," she would say regularly. "You should sell it and move to a senior community so Marcus can inherit the money while the kids are still young enough to benefit." Her advice ignored the fact that this was the home Helen and I had shared for 32 years. The real problem started when Jessica began treating the trust fund money like it already belonged to her children, and she had authority to make decisions about it. "William, I think we should increase the trust fund amounts to keep up with inflation," became typical conversations during family gatherings. $360,000 won't be enough for college and house down payments by the time the kids turn 25. Her assumptions about controlling money she hadn't earned were incredibly presumptuous. What bothered me most was Jessica's growing pattern of criticism about how I chose to spend my own money. "William, why do you need such an expensive car when that money could go toward the grandchildren's trust funds?" she would ask during visits. "Shouldn't family legacy be more important than personal luxury at your age?" Her comments made me feel like she thought my money belonged to her family rather than to me. During the past few months, Jessica started making plans for her children that assumed much larger trust fund amounts than I had actually established. When the kids get their inheritance money, we'll buy them each a condo as rental income properties, she would tell other family members. William's trust fund will set them up as real estate investors just like their grandfather. Her fantasies about spending money that didn't exist yet were getting out of control. Marcus seemed uncomfortable with his wife's increasingly demanding attitude, but he never spoke up to defend me or correct her assumptions. "Jessica, maybe we shouldn't pressure Dad about money decisions," was the strongest objection I ever heard him make. His failure to support his father while his wife made unreasonable demands disappointed me deeply. The situation reached a breaking point last month when Jessica started questioning my right to make charitable donations with my own money. "William, why are you giving money to the church when your grandchildren could use those funds for their education?" she demanded angrily. "Family should come first before donating to organizations that already have plenty of money." Her attempt to control my charitable giving was the final straw in our deteriorating relationship. Yesterday was Father's Day, and I was looking forward to spending time with my son and grandchildren, despite Jessica's difficult behavior. I had no idea that she was planning to use this special day to completely destroy our family relationship with words that would change everything between us forever. Now let me tell you exactly how I built my fortune while Jessica learned to take everything for granted. This story starts 52 years ago when I was just 22 years old, with nothing but a small inheritance from my grandfather and a dream about developing residential properties. Most people thought real estate was too risky for a young man with no connections in the construction business. But I could see that our growing city would need affordable housing for working families. I started Chen Properties with $15,000 from my grandfather's estate and pure determination to succeed in real estate development. Helen supported me completely, even though we were living in a tiny apartment and eating dinner at home every night to save money. "William, if you believe in this business, then I believe in you," she told me when I bought my first rundown duplex. We lived in one side while I renovated the other side to rent out for income. The breakthrough came when I won a contract to renovate a 12-unit apartment building for the City Housing Authority in 1975. The project was bigger than anything I had attempted before, but I knew it could establish my reputation in the local real estate market. Helen kept the books while I worked 16-hour days managing contractors and dealing with permits and inspections. That city contract launched my career and led to bigger development projects over the following years. Within a decade, Chen Properties was building new apartment complexes, townhouse communities, and single-family subdivisions across our metropolitan area. I reinvested every dollar of profit back into the company to buy more land and hire the best construction teams available in our region. By the time Marcus was born in 1985, we were making real money and building a solid foundation for our family's future. But Helen and I never forgot our humble beginnings or the sacrifices required to build something from nothing. "William, let's make sure our children understand the value of hard work," Helen would say regularly. "Money should be earned through effort, not just expected because you're born into the right family." Marcus grew up watching his parents work long hours to build our family business. He had chores around the house, earned his allowance through good behavior, and worked summer jobs at construction sites during high school. "Marcus, success requires treating people fairly and making smart decisions," I taught him. "Everything we have today came from working harder than our competitors and never giving up when things got difficult." Marcus seemed to appreciate these lessons about character and business principles. When Marcus went to college, I paid for his education completely so he could focus on his studies without financial stress. State University accounting program for 4 years. $68,000 in total costs, including room and board. Marcus graduated with good grades and found a job at Henderson accounting firm immediately after graduation. Helen and I were proud of the responsible young man he had become through education and hard work. After Marcus started his career, I continued supporting him financially when he needed help with major expenses. Down payment for his first house, $40,000. Car purchase when his college vehicle finally broke down, $28,000. Wedding expenses for his marriage to Jessica, $35,000. I was happy to help my son build a stable life while establishing himself in his accounting career. Marcus always showed genuine gratitude for my help during those early years of his marriage. "Dad, thank you for giving me such a great start in life," he would say sincerely during family dinners. "I know how hard you and Mom worked to build Chen Properties, and I want to make you proud through my own achievements." Marcus understood that my generosity came from love and decades of sacrifice to build our family's wealth. When Marcus and Jessica had their first child 8 years ago, I was excited about becoming a grandfather and potentially passing on our family business legacy to the next generation. "Helen, this means Chen Properties might continue for another generation," I told my wife. We both looked forward to watching our grandchildren grow up with the security and opportunities that our hard work had created. But something started changing in Jessica's attitude after she had the second and third children and got comfortable with the financial support I provided for their growing family. The grateful daughter-in-law slowly became someone who expected financial assistance without showing much appreciation for the person providing it. "William, we need help with the kids' daycare expenses," became typical requests without acknowledgement of previous support or gratitude for ongoing help. I started noticing that Jessica's thank you messages became shorter and less sincere over time. Instead of detailed appreciation for specific help with expenses or gifts, she would give quick responses like, "That's nice," or just nod when I offered financial assistance. The personal connection and genuine gratitude were disappearing as she became more comfortable with receiving support from her successful father-in-law. What bothered me most was Jessica's growing assumption that my wealth should automatically be available for her family's lifestyle improvements without her having to ask politely or show real appreciation. She would make statements like, "The kids need," instead of, "Could you please help us with," when discussing expenses she wanted me to cover. The entitlement was replacing the gratitude I had initially received for my generosity. Helen seemed to notice Jessica's changing attitude during her final years, but she was too sick to address the family dynamics directly. "William, make sure people appreciate your help," she told me during one of our last conversations in the hospital. "Don't let anyone take your generosity for granted just because they get used to receiving it." Her wisdom was proving more important than I had realized at the time. The real estate success continued growing despite Jessica's entitled attitude, but I started worrying about whether she understood the work and sacrifice that had created the wealth she was now treating as her family's automatic right. Annual revenue had reached $8.4 million last year. Property portfolio was worth over $12 million. But success means nothing if family members don't respect the person who created it. During Helen's final illness, Jessica was about to show me exactly what she thought about the father-in-law who had helped her family for 8 years. Let me take you back to that terrible Father's Day, when Jessica said the words that started my perfect trust fund revenge. It was June 18th, and I had been looking forward to spending the day with Marcus and my 3 grandchildren at their house. I arrived at noon with gifts for the kids and a homemade apple pie. Helen's recipe that the family had always loved during our holiday celebrations. Jessica answered the door looking annoyed about something that was clearly bothering her before I even arrived. "William, you're early," she said, without any Father's Day greeting or appreciation for my visit. "The kids are still getting ready, and Marcus is finishing some work in his home office." Her tone was cold and unwelcoming toward someone who had helped support their family for 8 years. "Sorry, Jessica," I replied, trying to stay positive despite her unfriendly attitude. "I can wait in the living room until everyone's ready." I was hoping her mood would improve once the kids came downstairs and we started the Father's Day celebration I had been looking forward to all week. The grandchildren were excited to see me and immediately wanted to show me their latest school projects and summer activities. "Grandpa, look at my art project from school," my 8-year-old granddaughter Emma said proudly. "I painted a picture of our family with you and Grandma Helen watching over us." Her innocent drawing included Helen as an angel, which made me emotional about missing my wife during this Father's Day. Marcus came down from his office and gave me a warm hug for Father's Day. "Dad, thanks for coming over today," he said genuinely. "The kids have been excited all week about spending time with their grandfather." His appreciation felt sincere, and I was glad that my son still valued our family relationship, despite the tension I had been feeling with Jessica. We spent the afternoon playing games with the kids and talking about their school achievements and summer plans. The grandchildren were doing well academically and seemed happy and healthy, which made me proud of the stable family environment Marcus and Jessica had created. "Grandpa, will you come to my baseball game next week?" my 10-year-old grandson asked. I'm the starting pitcher now. But I noticed Jessica becoming more irritated as the day continued, especially when the kids talked about activities that cost money or mentioned things they wanted for their bedrooms or summer camps. "Emma, don't ask Grandpa for expensive things," she would say sharply when the kids expressed interest in new bicycles or art supplies. Her comments seemed designed to create tension rather than manage the children's expectations appropriately. During dinner, Marcus mentioned that he had been thinking about our family business and wondering if there might be opportunities for him to get more involved with Chen Properties in the future. "Dad, I'd love to learn more about real estate development," he said. "Maybe I could help with the financial side of projects while still keeping my accounting job." His interest in the family business made me happy and proud. That's when Jessica decided to interrupt our conversation with complaints about my involvement in their family decisions. "William, Marcus doesn't need to work for your company," she said aggressively. "He has his own career, and we don't want to be dependent on family business arrangements that could change anytime." Her hostility toward discussing family legacy was shocking and hurtful. "Jessica, I was just sharing ideas with my son," I replied calmly, trying to understand why she was being so confrontational during our Father's Day celebration. There's no pressure for Marcus to change his career plans. I couldn't figure out what was making her so angry about a normal family conversation. After dinner, I was helping Marcus clear the table when Jessica followed us into the kitchen and started the argument that would change everything between us forever. "William, we need to talk about boundaries," she began in a tone that made me nervous about what was coming next. "There are some things about this family that you need to understand." "What do you mean, Jessica?" I asked, genuinely confused about what boundary issues she was referring to. "Is there something I've done that's made you uncomfortable?" I was trying to understand what could have caused her hostile attitude during what should have been a pleasant Father's Day visit. That's when Jessica delivered the words that shattered our family relationship completely. "You're not family anymore," she said with shocking cruelty. "You're just Marcus's father, not our family decision-maker or financial planner. Her words hit me like a physical blow from someone I had welcomed into our family and supported for 8 years. "Jessica, what are you talking about?" I asked, stunned by her declaration that I wasn't family anymore. "I'm Marcus's father and the children's grandfather. How can you say I'm not family?" I couldn't process how someone could make such a cruel statement on Father's Day to someone who had been nothing but generous and supportive. "You think because you have money, you can control our family decisions," Jessica continued with increasing anger. "But Marcus and I make our own choices about our children and our future. Your opinions about our lives don't matter anymore because you're not really part of this family unit." Her attack on my role as grandfather and father was devastating and completely unexpected. Marcus stood there in shocked silence as his wife told his father that he wasn't family anymore. "Jessica, that's not fair," he said weakly, but he didn't defend me strongly or tell her to apologize for such cruel words. His failure to stand up for his father was almost as hurtful as Jessica's direct attack on our family relationship. "The trust funds you set up for the kids," Jessica added with a dismissive laugh. "Those are just your way of trying to control our family from beyond the grave. But we'll raise our children with our own values, not yours." Her casual dismissal of the $1.8 million I had set aside for their children's futures showed complete disrespect for my generosity and love. I stood there in their kitchen, holding Father's Day gifts from grandchildren who had just been told their grandfather wasn't really family anymore. The woman I had welcomed as a daughter-in-law had just declared war on someone who had never done anything but support her family's success and happiness. That evening, I drove home alone and walked straight to my study to call my lawyer about the trust fund arrangements Jessica had just dismissed so cruelly. After Jessica's cruel declaration that I wasn't family anymore, I drove home alone to the empty house where Helen and I had lived for 32 years. The Father's Day celebration I had looked forward to all week had turned into a nightmare of disrespect and family betrayal. Sitting in my study that evening, I pulled out the trust fund documents that showed exactly what Jessica had just dismissed so carelessly when she told me I wasn't part of their family unit anymore. The first document was the original trust agreement I had established 3 years ago with my lawyer, Robert Kim. William Chen Trust Fund for Grandchildren was the official title, with $1.8 million divided equally among my 5 grandkids. Each of Marcus and Jessica's 3 children would receive $360,000 when they turned 25. The paperwork clearly showed that William Chen was the sole trustee with complete authority over all distributions and modifications. I found the bank statements showing exactly how I had funded this trust through my own hard work and sacrifice. Real estate sales commissions from Chen Properties, $400,000. Rental income from my 47 investment properties, $600,000. Stock market investments Helen and I had built over 30 years, $800,000. Every penny had come from decades of careful financial planning and business success. The most painful document was the letter I had written to my grandchildren when I first established their trust funds. "Dear Emma, David, and Sarah," it began. "Your grandmother Helen and I wanted to make sure you have opportunities we never had growing up. This money represents our love for you and our hope that you'll use it to build wonderful lives filled with education, travel, and helping others." The letter expressed pure love and generosity toward children whose mother had just declared me not family anymore. But looking at these trust fund documents also reminded me of something important that Jessica had clearly forgotten during her cruel Father's Day attack. William Chen was not just the person who had funded these trust accounts. I was the sole trustee with absolute legal authority to modify or revoke any distributions at any time before the children reached 25 years old. The trust modification procedures were clearly outlined in the legal paperwork my lawyer had prepared. Trustee William Chen retains complete discretion to alter beneficiary designations, distribution amounts, or eligibility requirements based on changed family circumstances, the document stated. Jessica's declaration that I wasn't family anymore definitely qualified as changed family circumstances that justified trust modifications. I also found the detailed breakdown of how much money I had given Marcus and Jessica's family over the 8 years since their marriage. House down payment assistance, $40,000. Wedding costs, $35,000. Car purchase help, $28,000. Emergency expenses and gifts, another $18,000. The trust fund, $1.8 million. Total support provided, almost $2 million for someone who now said I wasn't family. The financial records showed a pattern that Jessica had apparently forgotten while declaring her independence from my family involvement. Marcus's $90,000 salary couldn't have supported their comfortable middle-class lifestyle without my ongoing assistance. The house they lived in, the cars they drove, the children's activities and clothes, everything had been subsidized by the father-in-law Jessica had just dismissed as not really family. Looking at my estate planning documents made Jessica's Father's Day behavior even more insulting than I had realized during our kitchen confrontation. Marcus Chen shall inherit Chen properties and associated real estate holdings upon his father's death, the will stated clearly. The son whose wife had declared me not family was scheduled to receive over $12 million simply because he had been born into the right family. My phone had been silent all evening, with no calls from Marcus to apologize for his wife's behavior or check on my well-being after such a hurtful Father's Day experience. The man whose inheritance I had been protecting through careful estate planning couldn't even be bothered to call his father after witnessing such disrespectful treatment. His silence was almost as painful as Jessica's direct attack. The trust fund beneficiary documents showed that Jessica's children would lose $360,000 each if I decided to remove them from the trust. $1.08 million total that would no longer be available for their college educations, first homes, or financial security. The woman who had told me I wasn't family anymore had just cost her own children over $1 million in future inheritance. The most ironic part of reviewing these documents was understanding that Jessica had attacked the very person whose generosity was funding her family's comfortable assumptions about their financial future. Without my trust fund, her children would be completely dependent on Marcus's middle-class salary for college and life opportunities. The grandfather she had dismissed controlled their entire financial legacy. I found the lawyer contact information I would need to begin trust modifications first thing Monday morning. Robert Kim had handled all my estate planning for 15 years and understood my family relationships and values. Robert will know exactly how to protect my interests while teaching Jessica about consequences, I said to myself as I organized the paperwork. The banking account information showed that the trust fund money was currently invested in safe, conservative accounts, earning steady returns while waiting for the children to reach 25. But those accounts could be redirected to other beneficiaries with proper legal documentation. Jessica's cruel words had opened up possibilities I had never considered before her Father's Day attack. Sitting there in Helen's favorite chair that night, I felt something I hadn't experienced since my wife's death 3 years earlier. I felt like I had real power over someone who had hurt me deeply and shown complete disrespect for my role in their family. The daughter-in-law who didn't consider me family anymore was about to discover exactly who controlled her children's financial future. Tomorrow, I would start the process that would teach Jessica what "not family anymore" really meant when applied to trust fund inheritance and family legacy. The morning after Jessica's cruel Father's Day attack, I woke up in my empty house with a clear plan about what I needed to do to teach her about family respect. She thought she could tell me I wasn't family anymore while having no idea about the $1.8 million in trust funds that controlled her children's entire financial future. Jessica had declared independence from my family involvement, without understanding that her comfortable assumptions depended completely on my continued generosity and legal authority. I spent the morning organizing my strategy for maximum impact on Jessica's understanding of who really controlled the family money. This wasn't going to be some emotional outburst or angry confrontation that she could dismiss as her father-in-law's hurt feelings. This was going to be a calculated financial demonstration that would permanently change her assumptions about independence from William Chen's involvement in their family decisions. The first call I made was to my lawyer, Robert Kim, at 8:30 sharp on Monday morning. "Robert, I need to discuss immediate modifications to the grandchildren's trust fund based on recent family developments," I said calmly. "My daughter-in-law made it very clear on Father's Day that she doesn't consider me family anymore, so I want to adjust the trust arrangements accordingly." Robert had handled my legal affairs for 15 years and would understand the seriousness of this situation. "William, tell me exactly what happened," Robert said, as I described Jessica's cruel declaration that I wasn't family and her dismissive attitude toward the trust funds I had established. "Based on what you're telling me, you have complete legal authority to modify or revoke any distributions under the trust agreement," he confirmed. "The trustee has absolute discretion when family circumstances change significantly." His legal advice gave me confidence to proceed with teaching Jessica about consequences. I decided to remove all 3 of Jessica's children from the trust fund completely, rather than just reducing their distributions. Emma, David, and Sarah would lose their entire $360,000 inheritances because their mother had declared that their grandfather wasn't family anymore. The total financial impact would be $1.08 million that would no longer be available for their college educations or adult financial security. But I also wanted to redirect that money in a way that would teach Jessica important lessons about respect and family values. "Robert, I want to establish new trust funds for children of families who understand the importance of respecting their elders," I explained. "Maybe kids from my church or employees at Chen Properties who show appreciation for the opportunities they receive." The irony would be perfect. Children who weren't related to me by blood would benefit from Jessica's disrespectful behavior. The timing of these trust modifications would be crucial for maximum educational impact on Jessica's comfortable assumptions about her children's financial future. I decided to wait until she felt completely secure in her declaration of independence before revealing that her Father's Day cruelty had permanent consequences for her family's wealth and opportunities. I calculated the complete disruption this would cause to Jessica's long-term planning for her children's lives. Without the trust fund inheritances, Emma, David, and Sarah would be completely dependent on their parents' middle-class income for college and adult opportunities. Marcus's $90,000 salary wouldn't cover premium universities or help with first home purchases the way $360,000 trust funds would have provided. But more importantly, Jessica would discover that her hostile attitude toward family relationships had cost her own children over $1 million in future security. The mother who had declared me not family anymore would have to explain to her kids why their college funds had disappeared because of her disrespectful behavior toward their loving grandfather. I also planned to document everything that had happened during the Father's Day confrontation for potential legal challenges to my trust modifications. If Jessica tried to claim that my actions were excessive or that her behavior hadn't justified such serious financial consequences, I needed to be prepared with detailed records of her exact words and hostile attitude. The most satisfying part of my planning was knowing that Jessica's desire to be independent from my family involvement would be granted in exactly the way she didn't want. She had been uncomfortable with my opinions about their family decisions and didn't want me controlling their choices through financial support. Now she would have the complete independence she had demanded, along with the financial responsibility that came with it. I spent the afternoon reviewing all my estate planning documents to make sure Jessica's children couldn't challenge my right to remove them from trust funds based on their mother's disrespectful behavior. The trust agreement was my personal decision as the person who had funded it, not some legal obligation that protected the children's inheritance regardless of family circumstances. Robert called me back that evening with draft paperwork for the trust modifications. "William, I've prepared the legal documents to remove Jessica's children and redirect their trust funds to new beneficiaries," he explained. "We can execute these changes anytime you're ready to proceed." The power to completely alter Jessica's family financial future was now in my hands, waiting for the right moment to teach her about respect. I also prepared talking points for when I would inevitably have to explain my decision to family members and community friends. "Jessica made it very clear that she doesn't consider me family anymore," I would say calmly. "I'm simply ensuring that trust funds go to children whose families value and respect their benefactors." The logic would be unassailable and completely based on Jessica's own cruel words. That evening, I called my daughter Amy in California to let her know about the trust fund changes before she heard about them from other family members. "Amy, your brother's wife told me I'm not family anymore on Father's Day," I explained. "So I'm redirecting her children's trust funds to families who appreciate the generosity of their elders." Amy was shocked by Jessica's behavior and completely supported my decision to protect my dignity. Over the weekend, I watched Jessica enjoy her normal routine while having no idea that her Father's Day cruelty had already cost her children their entire inheritance. The daughter-in-law, who didn't consider me family, was about to discover exactly what that independence was worth financially. 3 days after I called my lawyer about the trust fund modifications, my phone started ringing frantically on Wednesday evening. It was Marcus calling me at home in complete panic about something his accountant colleague had mentioned during a casual conversation at work. "Dad, Jim Peterson said he heard from someone at the law firm that you've been making changes to family trust arrangements," he said urgently. "Please tell me there's been some kind of misunderstanding about what you're planning." "Marcus, that sounds like normal estate planning business," I replied calmly, like I had no idea what could be causing his concern. "Lawyers handle trust modifications and legal document updates regularly as family circumstances change." I wanted to hear exactly how Marcus had discovered my actions before confirming his worst fears about losing his children's inheritance. "Dad, Jim specifically mentioned that Robert Kim's office was working on trust fund revocations related to the Chen family," Marcus continued with worry growing in his voice. "He thought I should know in case there were issues I needed to address with you directly." He was starting to understand that his wife's Father's Day behavior might have triggered serious financial consequences for their family. I stayed completely calm while listening to Marcus's growing panic about his children's financial future. "Marcus, maybe Jim misunderstood some routine paperwork," I said matter-of-factly. "Sometimes estate planning requires updates based on changing family relationships and circumstances." I was enjoying his slow realization that Father's Day cruelty might have cost his family over $1 million. "Dad, are you making changes to the kids' trust funds?" Marcus asked directly, his voice getting more desperate. Because Jim seemed to think there were major modifications happening that could affect Emma, David, and Sarah's inheritance. He was starting to connect Jessica's disrespectful behavior with the legal activities that were now threatening his children's financial security. "Marcus, what changes are you worried about?" I asked innocently. "Are you suggesting that something your wife said on Father's Day might have influenced my decisions about family trust arrangements?" I wanted him to directly acknowledge Jessica's cruel words before revealing the full scope of their consequences. That's when Marcus began realizing there might be serious repercussions for his wife's declaration that I wasn't family anymore. "Dad, please tell me you're not changing the trust funds because of what Jessica said during our Father's Day dinner," he said desperately. "We can work out any family disagreements without involving the children's inheritance and their future financial security." The panic in his voice told me he was starting to understand that disrespecting his father could affect his family's comfortable assumptions about wealth. "Marcus, what family disagreements are you worried about?" I asked directly. "I thought Jessica made it very clear that I'm not family anymore and shouldn't be involved in your family decisions." I wanted him to repeat his wife's cruel words and understand exactly what she had said to his generous father. Within an hour of our phone conversation, Marcus showed up at my house unannounced, looking completely panicked and defeated. He had left work early and driven straight to my home to confront me about the trust fund changes that were threatening his children's entire financial future. "Dad, we need to talk about whatever you've done regarding the kids' inheritance," he said frantically as he stood on my front porch. "Come in, son," I said calmly, enjoying his obvious distress about facing consequences for his family's actions. "What seems to be the problem with your children's trust fund arrangements?" I wanted to hear him explain his panic before revealing the full scope of what Jessica's Father's Day behavior had cost them. Marcus sat down in my living room and started listing his fears about the trust fund modifications. "Dad, if you're removing the kids from their inheritance because you're angry about Jessica's comments, you're going to destroy their chances for college and financial independence," he said frantically. "Each child was supposed to get $360,000, and our entire family planning depends on that money being available when they turn 25. His confession revealed how completely their comfortable future depended on my continued generosity. "Marcus, why would their inheritance be in danger?" I asked patiently. "I thought Jessica made it clear that my involvement in your family decisions wasn't welcome anymore." I wanted him to acknowledge that his wife's hostile attitude had created this crisis through her own disrespectful words and entitled behavior. "Dad, Jessica was upset about something else that day and didn't mean what she said about family," Marcus replied desperately, trying to minimize his wife's cruel Father's Day attack. "She knows how much you've done for our family and how important the trust funds are for the children's futures." But his explanation ignored the specific cruelty of telling someone they weren't family anymore on Father's Day. I decided it was time to give him a hint about the consequences Jessica's behavior had created for their family's financial security. "Marcus, when your wife told me I wasn't family anymore, what did you think would happen to trust funds I established for family members?" I asked calmly. "Did you expect me to continue funding the inheritance of children whose mother declared that their grandfather wasn't part of their family unit?" "Dad, what are you saying?" Marcus asked with growing dread in his voice. He was starting to realize that Jessica's cruel words might have permanently damaged their children's inheritance prospects. Are you actually planning to remove the kids from their trust funds because of one conversation Jessica had during a stressful day? His question revealed that he still didn't understand the seriousness of disrespecting the person who controlled their entire financial legacy. Marcus, it wasn't just one conversation, I explained firmly. It was your wife telling your father that he wasn't family anymore and shouldn't be involved in decisions about children whose inheritance he was funding. The education about consequences was beginning, and Marcus was starting to understand the magnitude of Jessica's mistake. "Dad, please don't punish the children for their mother's words," Marcus begged desperately. Emma, David, and Sarah had nothing to do with what Jessica said, and they don't deserve to lose their inheritance because of adult disagreements. But his plea ignored the fact that Jessica's attack had been directed at the very person who had secured their children's financial future through love and generosity. The son whose wife had declared me not family was learning that family relationships work both ways when it comes to inheritance and financial legacy. After Marcus's panicked visit about the trust fund changes, I realized I needed solid evidence to support my decision to remove Jessica's children from their inheritance. If Jessica was going to challenge my right to modify trust funds or claim that her Father's Day behavior wasn't serious enough to justify removing $1.8 million from her children, I wanted bulletproof documentation of 8 years of growing disrespect and unearned benefits. I spent the next day gathering evidence that told the complete story of Jessica's entitled attitude and gradual loss of appreciation for her generous father-in-law. I started by organizing every financial record related to my support for Marcus and Jessica's family since their marriage 8 years ago. House down payment assistance in 2016, $40,000 that helped them move to a better neighborhood with excellent schools. Car purchase help in 2018, $28,000 when Jessica decided their family sedan wasn't safe enough for the children. Wedding costs in 2015, $35,000 for the reception Jessica wanted at the country club. The pattern of financial dependence was clear from reviewing my bank statements and expense records over nearly a decade. Emergency home repairs, $12,000 when their roof leaked. Medical expenses not covered by insurance, $8,000 for Emma's surgery. Vacation funding, $15,000 for their family trips to Disney World and the beach. Jessica had received over $138,000 in direct financial support, without including the children's trust funds. But the most important evidence was the gradual change in Jessica's attitude toward my generosity over the years. The thank you notes from early in their marriage were warm and detailed. "William, your help with the house down payment means everything to our family's future. Marcus and I are so grateful to have someone who cares about our success and happiness." Those heartfelt expressions of appreciation had slowly disappeared as Jessica became more comfortable receiving support. I found email exchanges where Jessica had questioned my financial decisions and suggested that I should spend more money on her family's needs. "William, the kids need new bedroom furniture, and you haven't helped with household expenses lately," she had written 6 months ago. "Shouldn't grandchildren's comfort be a priority for someone with your resources?" Her entitled tone ignored all the previous assistance I had provided. The most damaging evidence was Jessica's pattern of making demands rather than requests when she wanted financial help. "William, we need $5,000 for the kids' summer camp programs," became typical messages that assumed my money was automatically available for their lifestyle choices. "The children deserve the same opportunities as their wealthier classmates," she would add, like I owed them upper-class experiences. I documented specific instances where Jessica had criticized my lifestyle choices and suggested that I should redirect my spending toward her family's needs. "William, why do you need such an expensive car when that money could go toward the grandchildren's education funds?" she had asked during a family dinner last year. "At your age, shouldn't family legacy be more important than personal luxury?" Her attempt to guilt me into spending more on her children was manipulative and disrespectful. The Christmas and birthday gift records showed Jessica's escalating expectations for expensive presents without corresponding increases in gratitude or appreciation. 2021, $3,000 per child for educational toys and clothes. 2022, $4,000 per child, including electronics and sports equipment. 2023, $5,000 per child for premium bicycles and art supplies. Each year brought higher costs, but shorter thank you messages. I found records of family conversations where Jessica had made assumptions about inheriting my wealth and property without any acknowledgement that these were gifts rather than entitlements. "When William passes away, we'll probably need to sell his big house and invest the money in college funds for the kids," she had told her sister during a phone call I accidentally overheard. Her casual planning for my death and assets was shocking and inappropriate. The most insulting evidence was Jessica's attempt to control my charitable giving and community involvement. "William, why are you donating money to the church building fund when your grandchildren could use those resources?" she had complained angrily. "Family should come first before giving money to organizations that already have wealthy donors." Her criticism of my generosity toward others while demanding more for herself revealed her entitled character. I documented Jessica's pattern of dismissive comments about my age and capabilities that showed growing disrespect for the person supporting her family's comfortable lifestyle. "William, maybe you should let Marcus help with your business decisions since you're getting older," became regular suggestions that ignored my continued success. "Sometimes older people don't understand modern financial planning," she would add condescendingly. The social media posts were particularly revealing about Jessica's public attitude toward my role in their family. Photos of expensive family vacations never mentioned who had funded the trips. Posts about the children's achievements in private schools didn't acknowledge the person paying the tuition costs. Jessica was happy to enjoy the benefits of my generosity while keeping my contributions invisible to her friends and community. Most importantly, I found evidence of Jessica's complete lack of genuine appreciation for the trust funds that would have secured her children's financial futures. "The kids' inheritance money will let us buy them each a condo as investment properties," she had told Marcus during a conversation I overheard. "William's trust fund will set them up as real estate investors just like their grandfather." Her casual assumption that the money already belonged to her children showed no understanding that gifts can be revoked. The Father's Day evidence was the final piece that justified removing her children from their inheritance. "You're not family anymore, and your opinions about our lives don't matter," were direct quotes that multiple people could verify. Jessica's cruel declaration of independence from family relationships had been witnessed by her own children, making her words even more damaging and hurtful. Tomorrow, I would use all this evidence to show everyone exactly why Jessica's children had lost their inheritance and their comfortable assumptions about financial security. 5 days after Marcus's panicked visit to my house, the family meeting that would change everything took place in my living room on Saturday afternoon. I had invited Marcus, Jessica, and my daughter Amy, who flew in from California specifically for this discussion about trust fund modifications and family respect. All the evidence I had gathered about Jessica's entitled behavior and disrespectful attitude was organized in folders on my coffee table, ready to justify the most important financial decision I had made since Helen's death. "Thank you all for coming today," I began as the 4 family members sat on my couch and chairs where we had shared many happy holidays over the years. "We need to discuss immediate changes to the grandchildren's trust fund arrangements based on recent family developments that affect everyone's financial future." Marcus and Jessica looked nervous about what they were going to hear, while Amy appeared curious about why I had requested her presence. Jessica was clearly uncomfortable being in my house after her cruel Father's Day declaration, but she had come because Marcus insisted that their children's inheritance was too important to ignore. "William, I hope we can work out whatever misunderstanding happened last week," she said carefully, trying to sound more respectful than she had been during our kitchen confrontation. "The children's trust funds are too important for family disagreements to affect their futures." "Jessica, let me share with you exactly what happened on Father's Day," I replied, opening the first evidence folder that contained my detailed notes from our conversation. "You told me that I'm not family anymore, and that my opinions about your lives don't matter because I'm not part of your family unit." Amy gasped in shock as she heard about Jessica's disrespectful behavior toward her father on such an important family holiday. I then read aloud Jessica's exact words from my notes about our Father's Day confrontation. "You're just Marcus's father, not our family decision maker or financial planner," I quoted directly from our kitchen argument. "Your opinions about our lives don't matter anymore because you're not really part of this family unit." The room became completely silent as everyone processed the cruelty of those words, directed at someone who had been nothing but generous and supportive. Amy was visibly angry about Jessica's treatment of her father during what should have been a celebration of family relationships. "Jessica, I can't believe you said those things to Dad on Father's Day," she said with disgust. "He's been incredibly generous to your family for 8 years, and that's how you respond to his love and support." My daughter understood immediately why such disrespectful behavior had serious consequences. "Amy, that's exactly why I called this family meeting," I replied, pulling out the financial documents that showed the full scope of my support for Marcus and Jessica over nearly a decade. "Someone who declares that I'm not family anymore doesn't deserve to have their children inherit money from someone they've rejected." The logic was clear and unassailable based on Jessica's own cruel words. I then presented the evidence of Jessica's entitled attitude and growing disrespect over the past several years. "Jessica has received $138,000 in direct financial assistance," I explained systematically. "House down payment, car purchase, wedding costs, emergency expenses, and gifts for the children. Yet her appreciation has decreased while her demands and criticism have increased steadily." The pattern was obvious to everyone in the room. The email printouts were particularly damaging to Jessica's reputation with the other family members. "William, the kids need new bedroom furniture, and you haven't helped with household expenses lately," I read from one of her messages. "Shouldn't grandchildren's comfort be a priority for someone with your resources?" Amy shook her head in disbelief at Jessica's entitled tone toward their generous father. Marcus tried to defend his wife's behavior and minimize the seriousness of her Father's Day attack. "Dad, Jessica was having a stressful day and didn't mean to hurt your feelings," he said desperately. "We both appreciate everything you've done for our family, and we want to maintain good relationships going forward." But his weak explanation ignored the specific cruelty of declaring someone not family anymore on Father's Day. "Marcus, stress doesn't create disrespect. It reveals it," I replied firmly. "Your wife's words showed her true feelings about the person who has funded your comfortable lifestyle and secured your children's financial futures. I wanted him to understand that Jessica's attack had exposed her real character rather than some temporary emotional outburst. That's when I announced the decision that shocked everyone in the room completely. I have permanently removed Emma, David, and Sarah from their trust fund inheritance, I said calmly. $1.08 million that was designated for Jessica's children will now go to families who understand the importance of respecting their benefactors. Jessica's face went completely white as she realized her Father's Day cruelty had cost her children their entire inheritance. William, you can't seriously be taking away the kids' college money because of a family argument, Jessica protested frantically. They're innocent children who had nothing to do with our disagreement about family boundaries. But her desperate plea ignored the fact that she had attacked the very person who had secured her children's financial future through love and generosity. Amy fully supported my decision after hearing all the evidence of Jessica's disrespectful behavior. Dad, you're absolutely right to protect your dignity, she said firmly. Someone who declares you're not family doesn't deserve to benefit from your wealth and hard work. My daughter understood that family relationships require mutual respect, not one-sided financial support. The legal documents I showed them proved that William Chen had complete authority to modify trust arrangements based on changed family circumstances. The trustee has absolute discretion when beneficiaries' family members show disrespect or ingratitude, I explained. Jessica's Father's Day declaration certainly qualifies as changed circumstances that justify removing her children from their inheritance. The meeting ended with Jessica finally understanding exactly what not family anymore meant when applied to trust fund inheritance and financial legacy. After the family meeting that officially removed Jessica's children from my trust fund, she sat there in complete shock, staring at the legal documents that proved their $1.08 million inheritance was gone forever. The three family members filed out quietly, leaving Jessica and me alone in the living room where she had just learned the permanent consequences of telling me I wasn't family anymore. Her comfortable assumptions about her children's financial security had been shattered in front of witnesses who would spread this news throughout our extended family. William, please tell me there's some way to fix this terrible mistake, Jessica said desperately, her voice shaking as she realized the magnitude of what her Father's Day cruelty had cost her children. You can't seriously be taking away Emma, David, and Sarah's entire inheritance because of things I said during one stressful conversation. Her panic was obvious as she faced the reality that her cruel words had eliminated their college funds and financial security forever. Jessica, it wasn't one stressful conversation, I replied calmly, staying in complete control of the situation. It was you telling your children's grandfather that he wasn't family anymore and that his opinions didn't matter because he wasn't part of your family unit. I wanted her to understand that her Father's Day attack had revealed her true feelings about the person who had funded her comfortable lifestyle for 8 years. Jessica tried to minimize her disrespectful behavior and convinced me that she deserved another chance to repair our relationship. William, I was overwhelmed about the kids' schedules and Marcus working so much, she said frantically. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings or show disrespect for everything you've done for our family over the years. But her explanation ignored the fact that stress doesn't create cruelty. It reveals character flaws that were already there. Jessica, you told me I wasn't really part of your family unit, I reminded her. Those weren't words spoken in anger. They were a calculated declaration of independence from my involvement in your lives. I wanted Jessica to confront the specific cruelty of rejecting someone who had been nothing but generous and supportive to her family for nearly a decade. Marcus arrived at my house 30 minutes later, having heard about the trust fund announcement from Jessica's panicked phone call. "Dad, surely we can work out some compromise that protects the children's futures," he said desperately as he entered my living room. Jessica realizes she made serious mistakes, and we're both willing to do whatever it takes to repair our family relationships. His panic was clear as he faced losing over $1 million in inheritance for his children. "Marcus, this isn't about compromise," I replied firmly. "This is the natural consequence of your wife declaring that your father isn't family anymore." I wanted him to understand that Jessica's cruel words had permanent financial implications that couldn't be apologized away or negotiated back to their previous arrangement. Jessica broke down completely as she faced the practical implications of losing her children's trust fund inheritance. "William, Emma wants to be a doctor. David dreams of studying engineering. And Sarah loves art and wants to go to design school," she sobbed. "How can I tell them their college dreams are gone because I said stupid things during a family argument?" Her confession revealed how completely her children's futures had depended on money they had never earned. "Jessica, maybe you should have thought about that before telling their grandfather he wasn't part of their family," I said without sympathy. "You made it very clear that my involvement in your lives was unwelcome and inappropriate." The education about consequences was continuing, and Jessica was finally understanding that disrespecting benefactors has permanent costs. Marcus tried a different approach by offering to make amends for his wife's behavior and promising that Jessica would change her attitude permanently. "Dad, we'll attend family counseling and Jessica will write formal apologies to everyone for her disrespectful treatment," he said frantically. "She'll volunteer at senior centers to learn appreciation for older people and the wisdom they provide." But their promises felt empty after years of growing entitlement and diminishing gratitude. "Marcus, your apologies are motivated by losing money, not by genuine remorse for hurting someone who loved and supported your family unconditionally," I pointed out. "How can I trust that Jessica's respect is real rather than financially motivated?" The timing of their crisis made their sudden change in attitude obviously artificial and self-serving. After listening to Jessica and Marcus beg for forgiveness and financial restoration for over 2 hours, I was ready to announce my final decision about our family relationship and trust fund legacy. "Jessica, here are my conditions if you want any relationship with me going forward," I said clearly. "First, you will publicly apologize to our entire extended family for your disrespectful Father's Day behavior. Second, you will complete 6 months of counseling about entitlement and family relationships," I continued. "Third, you will treat me with genuine respect and appreciation, not because you want money, but because I'm Marcus's father and your children's grandfather." Jessica was nodding desperately, willing to agree to anything that might restore some hope of inheritance. "Most importantly, you will demonstrate through your actions that you understand family relationships require mutual respect and appreciation," I concluded. "I will not tolerate being told I'm not family by someone whose lifestyle I've been supporting." Both of them agreed immediately to all my conditions, because they had no choice if they wanted any relationship with me. However, I had one more announcement that shocked Jessica and Marcus completely. "Jessica, the trust fund inheritance is permanently gone regardless of whether you meet these conditions," I said calmly. "Your children will never receive a single dollar of the money you dismissed so carelessly on Father's Day." Her face went completely white as she realized her comfortable financial assumptions were destroyed forever. "Jessica, you said I wasn't family anymore. So now your children aren't beneficiaries of my family wealth," I explained. $1.08 million will go to families who teach their children to respect and appreciate the people who help them. The perfect justice in my decision was clear to everyone in the room. The daughter-in-law who had declared me not family had learned the permanent cost of disrespecting the person who had made her children's security possible. 8 months have passed since I removed Jessica's children from my trust fund, and I'm here today to tell you exactly how my life changed after setting clear boundaries with a family member who had taken my generosity completely for granted. The shock Jessica faced when she lost her children's $1.08 million inheritance taught her lessons about respect and consequences that her comfortable assumptions had never required her to learn. Jessica followed through on every condition I had set for maintaining any personal relationship, though her children would never see a penny of their former trust fund. She sent written apologies to our entire extended family, explaining her disrespectful Father's Day behavior and what she had learned about appreciating family elders. I was wrong to tell William he wasn't family anymore after everything he had done for us, she wrote to everyone. My father-in-law deserved gratitude and respect, not cruel rejection on Father's Day. Her public acknowledgement of wrongdoing was exactly what I had required for any chance of rebuilding our relationship. She also completed 6 months of counseling about entitlement issues and family respect that had destroyed her character over the years. The therapist helped me understand that I was treating your generosity like an obligation instead of appreciating incredible gifts, Jessica told me during a supervised family dinner 5 months later. I learned that financial support should never be expected or demanded from family members who choose to help out of love. The professional guidance had clearly improved her understanding of gratitude and basic human dignity. But the most important change was in Jessica's attitude toward me and our family relationship. No more declarations about independence from my involvement in their lives. No more criticism of my lifestyle choices or suggestions about how I should spend my money. William, I'm grateful that you're still willing to have any relationship with us after what I said on Father's Day, she said genuinely during a visit to my house 6 months later. Marcus's adjustment to their new financial reality was challenging, but ultimately healthy for their family's independence and character development. Without the trust fund safety net, he started working harder at his accounting job and taking on additional clients for extra income. Dad, we're actually becoming more financially responsible because we know the kids' futures depend entirely on our own efforts, he told me proudly during a recent conversation. The motivation was appropriate even if it came from necessity rather than choice. Jessica's position as a stay-at-home mother became part-time work as a bookkeeper to help cover the children's activity costs and college savings that would no longer come from trust fund inheritance. She had to completely restructure her assumptions about their family's financial future and her children's opportunities. I'm learning that earning money ourselves feels better than waiting for someone else's wealth, she admitted to me last month. Most importantly, Jessica started showing genuine appreciation for basic family relationships, rather than viewing me as a potential funding source for her children's dreams. William, thank you for still wanting to spend time with Emma, David, and Sarah, despite how I treated you, became regular expressions of gratitude. I realize now how much I took for granted while assuming I deserved financial support just because I married into your family. These were the kinds of respectful comments that had been missing from our interactions for years. My financial security improved dramatically after ending the trust fund obligation to Jessica's ungrateful family. The $1.08 million was redirected to establish college scholarships for children from working families in our community. The William and Helen Chen Education Foundation now provides $43,000 scholarships to 12 students annually whose families demonstrate genuine appreciation for educational opportunities. I also started dating again for the first time since Helen's death, something I hadn't felt ready for while dealing with family drama and financial manipulation. William, you seem more confident and peaceful lately, my girlfriend Margaret observed during one of our dinners. Resolving that situation with Jessica was good for your emotional well-being and dignity. She was right that protecting my respect had improved my overall happiness and openness to new relationships. The community response to my boundary setting was overwhelmingly supportive from neighbors, church members, and business associates who heard the full story. William did exactly what he should have done, became the common reaction from people who understood Jessica's disrespectful Father's Day behavior. Nobody deserves to be told they're not family anymore by someone whose children they were supporting, financially. The validation helped confirm that my actions were appropriate and justified. My relationship with the grandchildren actually improved after their mother learned important lessons about family respect and appreciation. Grandpa, Mom says we should be grateful for who you are, not what you give us, my granddaughter Emma told me during a recent visit. We love spending time with you even when we don't get expensive presents or trust funds. Their innocent honesty showed that children understand genuine relationships better than entitled adults. Jessica eventually thanked me for teaching her important lessons about family relationships through firm consequences rather than endless enabling. William, I'm glad you stopped supporting my entitled behavior, she told me 6 months after the trust fund crisis. I learned more about respect and appreciation from facing real consequences than I ever would have from continued financial support. Her gratitude for my boundary setting showed genuine growth in understanding personal responsibility. Looking back on this entire experience, I learned crucial lessons about family relationships and financial boundaries that every person should understand. First, generosity toward family members doesn't create obligations to tolerate disrespectful treatment or cruel behavior. Jessica's Father's Day attack showed her true character, and continuing to fund her children's inheritance would have only enabled more disrespect and entitlement. Second, sometimes permanent consequences are necessary to create real change in people's attitudes toward family and money. Jessica's apologies would never have led to genuine appreciation if she knew the trust fund was still available regardless of her behavior. Only by losing everything did she learn to value relationships over financial benefits and expectations. Most importantly, I learned that protecting your dignity and setting clear boundaries improves family relationships for everyone involved. At 74 years old, I finally have the respect and appreciation I always deserved, but had been afraid to demand from ungrateful family members who took my generosity for granted. Today, Jessica treats me like a valued father-in-law instead of some obligation or funding source to be managed for maximum benefit. Our conversations focus on genuine family connection rather than her financial needs or her children's expensive dreams. She learned that family support must be earned through consistent respect and appreciation, not assumed because of marriage or blood relationships. The daughter-in-law who told me I wasn't family anymore discovered that family wealth and inheritance work both ways in relationships built on mutual respect. If you are still here and enjoyed this story, please like this video. It really helps me know you want more content like this. If this story gave you some value or made you think, please share it with your friends or someone who needs to hear this message. If you have any questions or suggestions about this story, please type them in the comments below. I love reading what you think. If you want more stories like this one, please subscribe to this channel. There are many more stories coming. Remember, you teach people how to treat you by setting boundaries and demanding the respect you deserve.